In this video, I'll be sharing with you a tutorial on how to cut and sew a simple beginner-friendly 3-part corset. This corset pattern inspiration is from Lade Threads on Instagram. And to also register for our cupped corset class and to join our WhatsApp group, send us a message on WhatsApp. So to start, here is my pattern, and I've gone ahead to mark my basic measurement, which is the shoulder to bust, under bust, waistline, and here is the blouse length. So I'm using 5 inches after my waistline. So after marking this, I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2, and I will be coming down by 1 inch, right? From that point, I'll go ahead to mark a basic neckline of 3 inches. Go ahead to connect this from that neckline all the way to the shoulder slope, or the 1 inch I went down for the shoulder slope. Now for the depth of the neckline, I'll be using 3.5 inches and I'll connect. Go ahead to find my chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I'll place my ruler. Now I'll go ahead to draw a straight line at my chest line. The next step is to go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2. I'll place this ruler and I'll draw a straight line. I'll place my tape and divide my armhole into 2, come out by ½ inch. Here I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, connect this from the midpoint all the way to the upper part, and I'll go ahead to connect from the bust circumference divided by 4. Now is to mark my dart, and I'm going to go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2 first. I'll be marking this line at the bust, under bust, waist, and also to the blouse length. Now I'll place my ruler and I'll go ahead to connect this all the way down. After connecting it, I'm going to go ahead to divide the remaining part of my shoulder into 2, and I'll place my ruler to connect. After connecting, I'll be marking a dart intake of 1 inch on both sides. So if you're plus size, please go ahead to use 1.5 inches. I'll go ahead to place my ruler and I'll start connecting these lines from this point to the other side, and I'll also repeat it at this point of my pattern. Now you want to go ahead to use your marker and outline this, or if you're not using a marker, go ahead to just connect. I'll place my ruler, connect from the bust to the under bust, and also connect at the other side of my pattern, and I'll outline my pattern. Now you want to go ahead to mark where your cup will start, and from that point, that is the total height of your cup. Using about 1.5 inches, you can also place and measure from the shoulder. So for the dart, I'll just be using 1 inch on both sides. I'll go ahead to connect this, and I will be connecting at the other side of my pattern. And I will also go ahead to outline. So let's go ahead to insert our measurement. I'll go ahead to place my tape and I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Now I'll pick this that I have at the chest line. That is what I'll replace by the side, and I'll add my sewing allowance of ½ inch. I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and I'll add ½ inch for my sewing allowance. At the waistline, I'm going to be snatching out 2 inches from my waist. My waist is 28, minus 2 will give me 26. So that 26, I'll divide it by 2, which I'll mark. I'll measure this dart intake of 2 inches here, and I'll replace and then add ½ inch for my sewing allowance. Over here, I'll go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake I have there, replace, and then add ½ inch for my sewing allowance. So after this, I'm just going to go ahead to place my ruler, and I'm going to connect this all the way from the under bust to the bust, and from the under bust to the waist, and from the waist to the hip point. So after this, I'm just going to go ahead to use my marker to outline my pattern. So from this point at the lower part, I will be going up by 2 inches, which I will go ahead to mark. I'll place my ruler and then go ahead to draw out the hemline that I am going to use. So you can decide to use any hemline of your choice. I'll just be using this basic hemline for this pattern, and I'll outline. Well, let's go ahead to mark the bust dart. Measure your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. So minus what you have from the back from the waist. My shoulder to waist in front is 17, while my shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. If I take out that 15.5 from 17, I'm left with 1.5, which I'll mark 1.5 underneath my bust and connect it to my nipple to nipple point. I'll just shade this out as a dart. Now, to work on the cup bridge area of this pattern, I will be taking my chest line and I'll go in by 1/2 inch. Now I'm going to go ahead to connect from that point all the way down. Now you can go ahead to go up by your chest line or come down from your chest line, but I'm just going to maintain my chest line area and I will connect. Now I'll just go ahead to outline my pattern. After that, I'll be drawing out the cup for this side. So the type of neckline you want will determine what you have here, and I'll just connect this all the way up. On the other side of my pattern, to draw out the cup, I'll go ahead to blend out my darts, right? And I'm going to blend the sides to make sure it matches. From here, I'll mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2 and add 1/2 inch to that, right? So let's say a plus size, you can add extra 1 inch to your nipple to nipple measurements by this side. Now I'll go ahead to connect this all the way from this part at the upper part to the sides of my pattern. So I'll just go ahead and connect this by the side and connect to the other side, and this is my yoke. You can go ahead to tighten your yoke, but I'm just going to leave it that way. Now to make this corset a 3-part corset, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, pick a point from here, and I'm just going to go ahead to connect it all the way up, like creating like a slight curve here, right? And from this side, I'm just going to go ahead to also connect it towards the other side of my pattern. Make sure that the yoke area, what you have at the cup, is matching, and I'll now connect this to the side of my pattern. So after this, I'll just go ahead to label my pattern and we'll be cutting this out. If you have any question regarding this pattern drafting, please go ahead to leave your question at the comment section. So I'll just cut this out and also cut out the rest of the pattern. So when you're cutting the cup area, you also have to be careful. So this is so that the cup on each part is going to meet, especially when you're working on a 3-part corset pattern. So this is what I have. If you notice, the part I label A1 and A2 is not matching up when I place it together. So what I'll do is to place back that side of the cup, and I'll use my tape to hold it, and I'll go ahead to recontour that side and make it match, then go ahead to cut it out. So I'm just going to go ahead to cut this out, and this is what I'll be having for this part. So make sure that here is also matching. Now I'll cut this out and you can go ahead to join this as one piece. So here is my front pattern and we are drafting the back. For the back pattern, I'm going to make it a dartless pattern, which will be easier to work with. So what I have done here is to mark my shoulder divided by 2, mark the basic neckline of 3 inches by 1.5, and I found my chest line just like we did for the front. So I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4 and add 1/2 inch for my sewing allowance. That same snatched waistline I used for the front, this is what I will use for the back, and I'll add 1/2 inch. Here at the blouse length, I'll go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4 and add 1/2 inch. This is just what you need to mark for the back pattern. Very easy and without stress. Now I'm going to connect from the waist all the way to the hip area of my pattern. After that, I'll be going up by 2 inches from this part. Now I'm going to draw the line of this part. So when you're drafting your pattern, it's best to make the back a bit shorter so that it's easier for you to sit. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark 2 inches for the lacing, or I'm going to use 1.5 rather for the lacing of this pattern. So I'll just place and draw a straight line connecting from the upper part all the way to the lower part of this pattern. So after marking this, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to come down by 1/2 inch here, and I'll connect it to the yoke of my pattern. This is to make sure I tighten this part, and I'll also repeat this at the other side. So with this way, it's going to like drag the lower part up and make it not like drop or gape at the back. Now I made a dot to indicate that I have a lacing. I'll come down by 1.5 inches here, and I will also go ahead to like place my tape and mark my nipple to nipple point, which is 7 inches divided by 2 will give me 3.5. I'll place my ruler and I will connect. So this totally depends on the design of the yoke you want to use for your pattern. And I'll come down by 1/2 inch here, and I'll go ahead to connect this towards the chest line. I'm also tightening my yoke at the back so that it will not gape. I'll just shade this out so that I will not mistakenly cut it when I'm cutting, like include it when I'm cutting out the pattern at that side. So I'm done drafting, and the next step is to go ahead to make this dress. So in our next video, I'll go ahead to make this particular corset pattern. So if you have any question regarding this pattern drafting right now, you can go ahead to leave your question at the comment section. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please kindly hit on the subscribe button. So I made a mark where my yoke will be joining the bodies of this back pattern of the corset. After I'm done cutting out, see you in our next video where we'll be joining up this pattern. Thanks.